Major spoilers for the entirety of the Magnus archives. Also, we're discussing what are literally the embodiments of fear, so obviously viewer discretion is advised. Nothing too graphic, but just be aware. Hey y'all, I'm Afton Geek here, and I'll come right out and say it. I think the Magnus Archives has one of the best organizations of fear that I have seen in any piece of media. The way that Smirks 14 works is amazing, and I'm considering making an entire video dedicated to exploring what makes the fear mechanics of this particular story so special. However, while considering that, I realized that there are a lot of characters in the Magnus Archives who, for some reason or another, fit really well into an entity other than the one they already serve. One thing led to another, I got inspired to make this video, and in one very long sitting, I cranked out the rest of this script. Here's a fun little mental exercise put to the digital scene for y'all to enjoy. I highly encourage you to disagree with my assessments in the comments, and while you're down there, feel free to drop a like or even subscribe if you think I earned it. Only 3.6% of my viewers are subscribed, which is actually a step up from the last time I checked. Interacting with the channel really helps me reach more people, so thank you. Anyways, I'm Afton Geek here, and this is what other entity every TMA character would serve. Jürgen Leitner. If we're starting anywhere, it seems about right that we'd start with the character who indirectly caused the entire plot. Leitner is, like the first few characters I'm going to mention, not actually connected to any one entity. As a result, there's very little to go off of. If I had to make a decision though, I would probably put him with the Hunt. His drive towards a selfish goal is incredibly powerful, and even after its collapse, he sees the only failing in his plan as his own hubris. Thus, Hunt. Robert Smirk. Smirk's role as the architect of fear means that he had connections with every entity, but I think I'd most closely put him with the Spiral. While I did consider both the Buried and the Vast since they tend to be connected to spaces, I think the Spiral's tendency towards indescribable architecture, along with the post-change domain of the Monument, which seems to be in reverence of Smirk being mostly connected to the Spiral, means that the man himself would have fallen to it as well with a little more effort. Mikhail Salesa. For Salesa, I think the Lonely is the best fit. While he does interact with a lot of other characters, he seems to be a bit of a lone wolf, with his crew being the only others to build strong relationships with him. Not only would this put him in excellent parallel to the other ship captain of the series, Peter Lucas, but also explains his solitary behavior post-change. I actually really like this one. Adelard Decker. Alright, this one is not only a really easy answer, but something I was actively hoping for by the end of the series. Yeah, I wanted Decker to show back up as an avatar of the extinction. As someone who dedicated tons of his life to the study of its possible emergence, it only seems fitting in an ironic way that TMA often manages to present as that he might end up as the symbol of everything he had hoped to avoid. Jerry Key. It's way too easy to just say Jerry Key should just be a full-on eye avatar, so here's my proposition. Jerry should be connected to the Desolation. His ties to Gertrude Robinson mean that many avatars probably saw him as a symbol of their plans being laid to waste. He was well known for burning books, and he smoked. I call that a win. Mary Key. Yeah, of course Mary lands with the end. She basically devoted her whole life to the catalog of the trapped dead, so she definitely has a place among Terminus. Nuff said. Tim Stoker. Tim is such a clown that the Stranger is the only one that would take him. Jokes aside, yeah, definitely. His whole historical connection to the Stranger makes it easy to point there as his potential entity. Sasha James. We actually didn't get to see much of Sasha, but going off of the stuff we got, I really want to put her with the Spiral. To be fair, it is put mostly on her interaction with Michael, but I think there's something there. I really do feel like she would have been an interesting character if only she'd gotten a little more development. Jonah Magnus / Elias Bouchard. Given that his whole personality is the eye, it seems a little weird to put Jonah under anything else. Still, I think I'd probably put him with the web. His master plan definitely seems like the kind of thing the mother of puppets would appreciate. Jonathan Sims. I expect that John would join the web as well. His utter hatred of the arachnids paired with his web lighter and use of the tapes, which I called being tied to the web while listening, by the way, just makes it too simple. The only other one that I could see for our main character is the Extinction, because of his unwitting role in the change. Gertrude Robinson. This one is actually called out in the series, but I do think it's worth mentioning that Gertrude definitely could have been the Hunt. Like, absolutely. I don't even think I need to explain this one. Maybe the Desolation too, but probably the Hunt. Peter Lucas. With how much of his role in the story is built on the Lonely, it's hard to think of other entities he could be. However, I'd probably say the Vast because of his ties to the ocean, but even that feels kind of weak. Whatever, I'll go with it. Martin Blackwood. If I say Web Martin was a missed opportunity enough times, maybe it'll come true. Maybe. Alice Daisy Tonner. For an alternate Daisy entity, I have to go with the Buried. I could definitely see it based on her personality, and her time spent in the coffin really seals the deal for me. Definitely like this idea. Basira Hussein. I don't know why, but corruption Basira makes way more sense than it should. Alright, think about it for a second. Basira is a person basically defined by her connections to others, much like the connections which seem to act as an odd secondary rule of the corruption. Also, it connects really well with the idea of Buried Daisy, so regardless of what you say, I'm picking this one. Trevor Herbert. I do really like the idea of Trevor as an avatar of the end. Since he's a hunter, his presence often indicates danger and death for the other characters. Also, he's bounced back really well from that whole cancer thing. Definitely seems like someone who would serve a fear god representing the inevitability of death, I think, though I could also see an argument for the slaughter with how merciless he is. Julia Montauk. The Dark. Come on. It really is too fitting that she would become the entity that she has had so many life-defining run-ins with. Honestly, anything else feels like an affront to the character. Melanie King. I think I'm gonna go with the Hunt for Melanie. And while this might seem a little easy given she's already with the Slaughter, trust me, it's for a good reason. Melanie's single-minded drive, as seen early on in the series, makes it very clear that she'd do anything for a good enough result. Later on in the series, her decision to blind herself to escape the Eye definitely shows the great lengths she would go to escape, which also shows intense drive. Overall, definitely think this fits here. Alfred Grifter. I'll be honest, I put Grifter on here just because I really like him as a character, but I have no idea where else he'd be. The Spiral, maybe, since it's got the whole madness gimmick going on, even though that really is more of a Slaughter thing. Whatever, that fits best. Let's do that. Feel free to give me your ideas in the comment section down below. The Piper. The literal embodiment of the Slaughter, you say? How in the world are you going to classify it as something else? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm putting the Piper under the Desolation because, while it definitely is meant to represent the horrors of war, I think that those horrors can also be symbolized by the destructive flames of the Desolation, stripping away everything from the lives of those unfortunate or foolish enough to participate. Definitely the next best fit. The Distortion. I don't mean to have so many web-aligned characters here, but it fits really well. Given that the Distortion's whole thing is perception, you can definitely see its manipulative streak, especially while acting as Helen, as very similar to the web. I think the biggest thorn in the side of this idea is that it's specifically stated to not have a plan. But in that case, it's just the Desolation, causing damage for damage's sake. Either way, it's neat. Gabriel. Gabriel's sculpting makes me think of The Stranger for some reason, and I can't think of anything better or more logical, so that's where we're at. Sergei Yushchenko. For this one, I'm going with the popular answer and saying that Mr. Yushchenko could also represent the extinction. Technology is a running theme in the extinction, and since Sergei is trapped in a computer, it's not a far logical leap. The man upon the stair. If he's not with the spiral, then he's with the stranger. One of the stranger's big things is the loss of self, and the man upon the stair has that in spades. Annabelle Kane. So, Annabelle. Honestly, I feel secure in calling her a part of the Eye if she's not with the web. The biggest difference between the Eye and the web seems to be action anyways, since Annabelle spends most of the series in the shadows watching along, only giving little nudges, so it's not too far of a leap to just give her entirely to the Grand Voyeur. Neil Ligorio. I'm putting Neil with the stranger. Puppeteering is too much of a stranger thing to really excuse putting him anywhere else. Raymond Fielding. Right, he's described as a recluse. Lonely it is. No, I'm not explaining it better than that. Not them. The Spiral, unquestioningly. In reality, I don't get how the not them wasn't already assigned to the Spiral. The idea of something that alters the world to make it appear that one specific individual has gone crazy is the kind of fear that it seems like the Spiral would love. Whatever, I'm calling the shots now, so it's Spiral time. Nicola Orsanov. I like Nicola as the Dark. She's got a really neat relationship with lacking information, and her first encounter with John is when all the lights go out. You might say that it's random, I say it's convenient. Brecon and Hope. I like the idea that the coffin left some kind of effect on Brecon and Hope, so I'm going with the Buried. Honestly, that's the only reason I have, but it's fun, so I'm keeping it. Anatomy students. The anatomy students are going to be our first flesh avatars. It just seems right that characters so invested in the inner workings of the human body would love its intricacies in a way that lends amazingly to the body horror of the flesh. Justin Go. Justin probably stands as one of the best characters in TMA on a conceptual level. For those who need a refresher, he's the guy who Adelard Decker investigated killing people with carbon monoxide. Obviously, given the whole suffocation thing, it definitely seems easy to call him a part of the Buried, so that's what I'm doing. Justice for Justin. Nathaniel Thorpe / Death. This is another concept I really like, as are all of the end characters. I don't know if this is obvious from how I reacted in my rankings, which you can watch by going to the link up on the corner, but I thought that this was a genuinely awesome character idea. Anyways, death is really hard to put in anything but the end, but I do like the idea of it being part of the extinction, symbolic of the great change that all of us undergo at the end of our lives, and the even greater change that comes for those who defeat it in a game. Oliver Banks. He literally went all the way to Point Nemo to avoid people, so I'm putting him with the lonely since there's nowhere better to put him. Maybe the eye to symbolize the hidden knowledge of upcoming deaths? Tova McHugh. Another amazing concept for the end, which really puts forth the morality of trading lives, even if that life is doing good for the world. I like the Desolation as an alternative for Tova, because in her statement she even admits that how much life she gains after a kill seems to be based on those connected to that person, which definitely fits the Desolation's whole tearing away everything you love modus operandi. Agnes Montague. Agnes is heralded by the Church of the Lightless Flame as the new Messiah, so I'm putting her in the extinction because of the massive change for the world that her formation symbolizes. Jude Perry, since she was a stockbroker before adopting the Desolation, and the Buried has a whole financial thing going, it's time for another Buried character. I didn't mean to have so many Buried avatars here, it's just something that's really easy to include. Eugene Vanderstock. I'm saying the stranger because I really like the idea that that's what happened to him after Gertrude got a hold of him. Arthur Nolan. Given that he later became Jane Prentice's landlord, I like the idea of him being involved with the corruption. Who knows, maybe he could swap out his cigar for a nice, juicy grub. Probably better for him. Diego Molina. Well, he used to work in a museum as a curator and ended up getting killed by Jerry, so I'm putting him with the eye. Deal with it. Maxwell Rayner. Maxwell is definitely landing with the vast. I mean, come on. He started out as Edmund Halley, who had tons of connections among the stars. Scary Spaceman Rayner is awesome, and I'm totally behind it. Callum Brody. Brody's role as a bully and love of torturing his fellow children means that I'm putting Callum with the Slaughter, although I could also see a strong argument for him being with the Stranger, given all of the terrifying monsters he conjures up for the children stuck in his post-change domain. Jared Hopworth. His love of changing the human form definitely makes me think of the weird and twisted shapes the Stranger can use, so I'll take it. Angela. We don't really have a ton to go off of for Angela, but given how she seems to be able to fate accidents, I like the idea of her being a secret web avatar. It just seems like the kind of planning and fate that the web would find very enticing. Jane Prentice. Worm Lady not being Worm Lady is a weird idea, but I do definitely think that the trypophobic look could fit just as well for an avatar of the flesh, so I'll put her with them. John Amherst. Extinction Amherst is a lot of fun, given his last appearance in the series. John Amherst is an amazing character who needs to be appreciated more, so I'd be down to put him with the Extinction. Jordan Kennedy. Come on, he's an exterminator. Tell me that wouldn't make for an awesome Slaughter avatar. He's got tired of hunting bugs, and now he's hunting people. Simon Fairchild. I'm gonna be entirely honest, I have no idea what it is about him, but Fairchild makes me think of the dark. Probably just his interest in space and the ocean, but I really like the idea of this fun old man being a representative for Mr. Pitch himself. Mike Crew. His whole reason for pursuing the vast in the first place was his fear of a spiral creature, so I think that a spiral version of Mike Crew would definitely be fun. If the two main Michaels were on the same side, they'd be unstoppable. Hezekiah Wakely. Finally, we have Hezekiah Wakely, who is the only avatar of the Buried in the entire series, because I guess Johnny really hated the Buried. Either way, his strong association with sleep, death, and burial makes me really want to put him with the End, so that's what I'm doing. If he likes his sleep so much, let's make it permanent. And that brings us to the end of the list. What did you think? Were there any notable characters that I missed? What decisions did you disagree with? Be sure to let me know. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Good night, y'all.